until we see the actual, oh, there we are.
There we are.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the February 14th, Happy Valentine's Day, Conservation Commission meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Sue, can we have roll call next? Present.
Present. Sam Kenny.
Present.
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 Okay. And it looks like Mr. West is here regarding a wetlands permit. Do we have any other members of the public that are here for anything else?
Mr. West is representing me. I'm Melvin Crosspark, 17 Moody Point Drive.
Okay.
With that hole.
And I'm Helen Hannon, and I sound worse.
Okay. All right. We will go to approval of minutes, and then we will go to your presentation on your wetlands permit. So, did everyone get a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? Are there any suggested changes, edits?
No comment.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 10th. Thank you, Sue. 2019 Conservation Commission meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, Sue, do we need to appoint Drew tonight? Because, yes.
Well, it would be nice.
Yes, so we will approve Drew Kieffer, who is an alternate member tonight, to be a voting member in the absence of several other members tonight. Okay, so I'm going to move up. Mark West is here, and Mark, if you and anyone else that's going to speak, if you could come up to the microphone and just that way the video will be able to pick you up for people at home who are following, and you can go ahead and present on the wetland permit you're here on.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you might want to see if that's on, if it's turned on.
Oh, is it up? Is it on? Yes.
Yeah, had the green light.
There you go.
Testing. Okay, my name is Mark West of West Environmental. I'm a wetland scientist. I have been working with the Proskoffs for a couple of years now for a couple of different projects. And we come tonight for a wetlands permit for work in the upland, previously developed upland tidal buffer zone of the Lamprey, the tidal portion of the Lamprey River. I have a map that I'll use, but I think it might be helpful to the members to look at, if you haven't been to the site, to walk you through the site, and we'll start with an aerial photo. So I just happen to have a copy, extra copies. So
We can share one.
sharing, okay.
Yeah,
Sharing,
we can do that.
These days when I do these applications, I list everything because there's so many different attachments and to keep track. So I do have enough for everybody, but it's just good to be familiar with the project before you have to decide what you think about the project. So this is a copy for everybody so they can see. One of the issues here is this, yes. Oh, you want me to? Go. So the first thing is the first thing is the fact that the DES treats previously developed upland tidal buffer zone different than if we were cutting down a forest adjacent to a resource area. I have here the whole site so you can understand, but the two areas of impact that we're talking about are this temporary impact in yellow and a tiny area here of permanent impact at the corner of the new house. The existing house is here, the addition is here, and the main reason for the addition is the downstairs level of this is difficult as they get older to access. They have one of those things that goes down along the stairs, and they would like more living space all on one floor to have an easier time. And so the addition, really one of the main issues is this is a ridge. This is the top of the ridge. It goes up, and then it goes back down towards the road. So adding this way would obviously have more impact, but adding this way would be much more grading. Here, you're staying at the same level of the existing structure, and it's easier to build. What we're proposing here is the addition with two pervious patios and a total temporary impact in the tidal buffer zone of 3,700 square feet. So that's all temporary. It's lawn now or gardens, landscaping now. This whole area would be planted with native shrubs, which is one of the recommendations of LRAC, the Lamprey River Advisory Committee. They said they'd like to see more vegetation. And why don't we briefly go through the aerial photo sort of shows you in yellow where the, I'll hold the close. In yellow where the addition is going to be, the grading's going to be in front of that. You can see a pool area here, and it's fenced. And then there's a line of very large oak trees along the water. And then there's also a wooded area on this part of the property and some trees here. Otherwise, it's a very large lawn area. The red here is a new septic system. There's an existing system. It's not broken, but because they did research and couldn't find any record of it or anything like that, the state requires that you upgrade it. The existing system is here, and it's being moved over the ridge further away from the river. So the existing system is in this area, and the whole system's going to be moved 100 feet further back from the Lamprey River. This purple area are impacts for grading for the septic and the driveway and the building, and those are all temporary impacts except for the septic system. There's also a vent pipe and a pipe from the existing tank up to the leach field, and then a pipe to the existing storage building, and there's also a pipe for a water line down to the dock. There is a slight narrow band of salt marsh, and it's a pretty abrupt drop from the trees and the lawn down to the tidal wetland area. And the reference line is on here, and the dock is on here. I'll briefly go through some of the pictures. If you switch to picture 1, I can sort of show you, take you through here. The first picture is looking down at the water at the dock from this area. So you can see it's mostly lawn with some shrubs along the fence of the pool area. This next photo is taken looking along the tidal marsh, picture number 2. You can see those large trees and the stone wall. So basically it's lawn, then the trees and stone walls, and then salt marsh. And then it goes into mud flat. the next item, picture number 3, is just looking in a different direction towards the dock. So the other one was looking along the shore. Picture number 4 is looking up at the house from down in the lawn. The pool's on the right, and the structure you see is right here. The next photo, number 5, is looking up the fence line at the existing house. So right here, there's going to be a patio, but this whole lawn area is going to be regraded to add the structure. So this is all going to be landscaped shrubs, native shrubs. So it's a big increase in those. The next shot, number 6, is looking up at this part of the house, up at the end of it here. And again, there are some shrubs, but everything I'm standing in now would all be shrubs all the way to the house. There's going to be an addition, and then the grading for the new grade of the building, which is really going to be built at grade. So I just have a couple more here. I have another picture here looking at this part of the house, and there is some large arborvitae in a line right about here that will be removed. And then there's another picture, number 8, is looking at the area where the septic will be built, and you can see Moody Point Drive beyond that. And the last 2 photos are, one is of this tree line, number 9. So this is the only real forested area per se on the site. And then the last one is taking a look from basically where the new corner of the building is going to be down towards the water and the trees. So I just wanted to take the time so you could sort of familiarize yourself with the property. And I want to mention we received a letter from the shoreland people, which I know that's not, you're not reviewing that permit, you're reviewing the wetlands permit, but they are requesting that we remove any impact to this woodland. And so they've got one of those high standpipes to vent the septic system, and the designer put it in the woods so you wouldn't see it. But now it just has to be pulled back so it's at the edge of the woods. So they don't even want us to cut any brush or anything there. Mostly because there is not much woodland on this lot, and they want to preserve what they can. And the neighbors still won't be able to see it, so the Proskoffs will see it, but their neighbors won't. And then the other area is this little area, edge of grading here. So we're probably going to have to just put a little small stone retaining wall right there to stay out of those few shrubs. You can see on picture number 9, it's kind of like brushy, but they want us to preserve everything we can. And so all of this is shoreland issue, and all of your permit is for these, the yellow and the pink. Actually, just this part of the pink. Everything else is in the shoreland.
So
Yeah.
quick question, Mark, just from a clarification on the map there. So the big dotted line is the differentiation between the wetland area and the shoreland area, is that correct?
This line right here is the 100-foot buffer.
Okay, thank you.
And the house is just this 120 square feet right here. And everything else, we meet all their criteria. They just want to protect those for the shoreland. And we actually would have qualified for a minimum expedited, except we're doing this work within 50 feet of a salt marsh. And the Proskoffs wanted to have the hose down here so they didn't have to put it 50 feet back and drag it back and forth. Again, at their age, they'd prefer to make life easy. We did get Natural Heritage, and they said, although there are some rare plants in this stretch of the river, they don't feel there's going to be any impacts. So that's included in your application package, that they have no concerns. And then the Lamprey River Advisory Committee just asked for any additional shrubs would be recommended, but they're not required. But we're planting almost 3,000 square feet of shrubs, almost 4,000 in that area.
When you say native shrubs, what can you say? What are you looking for? Or
We're looking at winterberry, blueberry, viburnum. Probably, I'm going to recommend swamp azalea because it's a beautiful native azalea. I'm going to talk to them about other ones.
Oh, that's
We
fine.
may do some small coniferous shrubs, but
you have a lot of good winter interest in the plants you already named. That'll be pretty.
yeah, and we want it for wildlife, but also for flowering.
Yeah.
I like Virginia rose because it's a pink rose, but it's Rosa rugosa is not native. But Virginia rose is nice. It has nice rose hips, and it's hardy. So we're going to work on a nice planting scheme.
Thank you.
And anything we send to the DES additional, we'll CC you, so you all have it.
Any other questions?
Did you, sorry, Drew. Did you receive any input from DES prior to submission? Did you meet with the
Yes,
reviewer?
we had a pre-application meeting with Stephanie Giolongo and went over everything with her. It's kind of a complicated little project, even though it's just an addition because of the septic and some of the shoreland and wetland. Used to be able to just apply to the wetland and the shoreland together in one, but now they separate it. And we're hoping to, get the revisions, comments from everyone at once so that we can not revise it 2 or 3 times. We do need to go to the town for impact in the 125-foot town setback, and it's basically this portion of, if you look at this line, it's this portion of the addition right here. Not this, but just the front of it. So that's another step we have to take. It's going through the planning, I think.
So I think you already said this, but I didn't quite catch it. So the existing septic system is towards the river,
Right here.
and so is the entire system being moved, or is the tank? Yes, so if you could play that back again?
You can? Sure.
Can you hear me from here?
I can, but if you don't mind, it's mostly so that if anyone's watching at home or based on the, recording of it, et cetera, it's easier to hear if you're there.
Hi, I'm Melvin Proskoff, the property owner at 17 Moody Point Drive. Thank you for being able to be here today. I had previously appeared at the Concom with Mr. West a couple of years ago when we had gone to DES as part of the process of getting permission to rebuild the storage facility on the existing footprint that was falling down, and that portion got through. Got done this summer, but we still don't have the water, the previously existing water and electric to that building because we don't have this current DES permission to trench. So the building was built on site, and that's as far as it went. In terms of the septic system is a septic system that was put in 1964, and is considered to be grandfathered non-conforming. As far as I understand from our septic engineer, septic designer, Susan Ferretra, that used to be that if the septic system is working, it was necessary to present to the state a new septic plan, have it approved, but not have to build it unless the existing septic system failed. The current system is functioning fine. However, about a year and a half ago, the state changed the law and said that in order for that pre-existing set of circumstances to hold, there had to have been on file with the state the grandfathered non-conforming septic. And the grandfathered non-conforming septic was built in 1964, and the state started holding copies of it in 1969. So we ended up out of luck. So that's the story. So because of that, we're mandated for, and the way Ms. Ferretra explained the septic laws to us is that any change of the footprint of the house, even if I wanted to add another bay to the garage, of the existing structure and nothing else, any change to the existing footprint was sufficient to trigger the necessity for the entire new septic design and moving from where it is there all the way up and over. Part of this is also putting in a new and larger septic tank that is sized for the number of bedrooms that the house is going to have. That's it.
So, but the question is this just going to be abandoned and left in the ground?
The plan on that is for it to be filled and bypassed. So the current, according to Ms. Ferretra and the contractor, who is Adrian Fieldhouse from Yarnum Construction in Newfields, the plan is going to be to keep running the existing septic line from the house and through the existing tanks, but filling in the existing tanks, so basically bypassing the tanks completely with new pipes coming through and extending into the new septic tank. And then, and because this is going to be, new test pits have been done on that front lawn, which is actually, it's got slope and hill, and due to the consistency, it's going to have to be a somewhat elevated system. So whereas the existing one is a straight gravity drain, this one is going to be a pump out system.
Thank you.
And
So just to summarize, it's a new tank and a new leach field.
The whole new system.
Thank you.
But is the existing tank, where is it on the map? Can you point out? Oh, it's down
It's
there.
right under the.
Right here.
And then the new one.
And that's the existing leach field, so to speak.
And that's existing. Can you just point out for me again where the new one will be in relation? It's really at the complete opposite corner of where it is today.
Yeah, and it's much farther from the river, so the
Yeah,
state's
yeah.
very happy about that.
Yeah.
So we're
that's-
we're
And it's
taking it.
actually on over the slope, so
Right.
you know, most of stuff is going to be going into the ground and headed that way.
And it gets rid of what the state wants, which is having non-conforming. Here we have a septic within probably about 50, 60 feet of the water, the existing septic.
Yeah.
Right?
It's currently, it's currently in the 75-foot septic setback. Goes right through the middle of it.
Thanks.
I'm mostly just impressed that you have a 55-year-old system that's still operating functionally.
That's why I did this a minute ago.
Yeah, like 30 to 40 for those is like.
Mine's 33.
I hope
I hope it will last forever.
I hope we can build the new one to the same standard, right?
Yeah.
I have a question about the far left corner that you said was in question, or the very front
Of the
end.
building?
Yeah.
Right here.
What, have there been any alternatives discussed or presented?
Well, I know
What's
that
the question?
the question is, this little part here, because it's in the 100-foot buffer, That's the one impact
There was
that's
nothing
permanent.
that we were planning within the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah, it is, right here. That's,
Okay, as far
according
as-
to this plan, there's 120
Okay,
square feet.
um,
So the,
That's, I will, this should be, as far as as far as I recall, and maybe something had changed and moved slightly, there was only one portion that we were just nudging towards the actual 100-foot line.
well, we can double check, but this says 127 square feet of permanent impact. And the only place I can see that is, actually,
It was, I think it was.
it's the little edge of that. So what they're asking is, did you look at other designs that might keep you out of there? I know
The goal
they,
was to stay behind the 100-foot line.
yeah, I
at
think
all
the
times.
structure is, but maybe the very edge of it is.
This
I-
could be the
I-
roof overhang, I think some of this was the roof overhang, and that's what.
It might be the roof overhang.
And
I
when
can
we
verify.
had this discussion previously with the, with McEnany Survey.
Yeah.
McEnany Survey of Dover has done the, all prior plans on this since going back to the 1997 when I purchased the property. And it's, the overhang of the roof comes forward.
And that's considered permanent impact,
That
I
is,
guess. I don't
No,
know.
no.
They did
The
that.
foundation-
I did fail to mention, I apologize, that we do have infiltration systems here. That combined with the pervious is to upgrade the structure so it has less infiltration. And we're way under the threshold for, we're at 13.75% of the lot for impervious. But again, because we're adding and expanding, we wanted to add infiltration to improve stormwater runoff. But I can double check that and get,
part of it also is the plans that we have done with the architectural designer, whose name is Hubert Krau, Hubertkrah, from Portsmouth. All lines that he's been working on his footprint have had the 100-foot line, and everything has been just behind the 100-foot line. So if we're showing over a 100-foot line, there may be some discrepancy between Mr. Krau's plan and the survey, and we'll make sure that it all falls back below the 100-foot line. The goal was never to go over, except in order to build even a few feet back from the, or at the 100-foot line, it was going to require a temporary impact forward just to dig down to put the foundation.
yeah, we have that covered, but you may be raising it. I mean, there's been, the architect's been working on all kinds of, so there have been alternatives
Right.
to how they lay out all these things. And we have kept moving it, and trying to stay. But it may be that McEnany interpreted an overhang as an impact, because there's really, I can't see on the plan what else a permanent impact is. So I will double check that and can get you all an answer for that.
And as Mr. West said, our intention was, since this part of the house that already exists is inside, that is inside the 125-foot Newmarket zone, what we're asking for, and, where's the,
125 is right here.
the 125?
Yes.
So there's this part is,
Already in it, yeah.
that's not the one, I'm sorry. The decks, this is at the 100.
That's 100. See, it says 125 right
That's
here.
125.
Yes. But we still have to go to the planning board
And
because.
for
we're
either
working
variance or special
in the
exception to the
125.
ordinance, yes.
Yeah.
So since we already have some in there, there is a provision in the ordinance on the 125 that you can extend laterally.
Right.
If there are 6 conditions that are met, or the 5 conditions for a variance, and that's where we're working with Ms. Hardy And the attorney I have working on that with Ms. Hardy is Justin Richardson from Upton and Hatfield in Portsmouth.
I do understand though, because I'm always working with clients, and whenever there's a tiny little impact in the wetland or wetland buffer, I always say, they're gonna ask you to try to get that out of there. But I sort of just, we've been going through this thing so long, I sort of said, okay, that's what it is. But when you look at this plan, it is hard to see where there's actual part of the structure that has gone over the line. But they don't show a roof line on here.
This 100-foot wetlands line, we do actually have some of that, and then this.
But that's existing.
Existing, and this is the one, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is the 120,
That-
and the 125 line. So we do have
Yeah.
part of the house
Yeah.
that's already in the
Right.
125.
So I will double check here because it literally looks like the corner of the house is not in the tidal buffer, and it looks like this is right at the edge of the tidal buffer. So I think you may have raised an important point that we should double check, because if there is overhang, since it parallels, you can see it parallels the structure right here, that it may be that you have 3-foot overhang for long enough and you get to the 127. I hope we haven't confused you.
No, that's,
Well, I mean, the only part that I would question is, yeah, that's what it says in your permit application, is it says the 127.
Yes, and it
So-
says that on the plan. So if in fact we're not impacting permanently in the tidal buffer zone, we should resend you an amended plan, which, like I said, any changes we make, because we have to make a few for the shoreland, but any changes we make, we can send the revised plan to you. That's what we always do. We prefer not to wait a month before you all have any comment on this. I mean, any comments besides this 127, we're happy to hear now so we can make whatever changes we need to make. I'm not the expert at the drawing. I'm definitely gonna be calling McEnany first thing tomorrow morning.
But again, the intention was always staying out of the 100-foot zone. That's permanent impact.
It looks like you are, but this plan doesn't say it is, so. And
Thank you for
the
bringing that up.
state won't have any problem if we reduce the impact.
So it sounds like you'd like us to consider it as it's written right now for
Correct.
tonight.
Correct.
And, yeah, obviously if you pulled back from that permitted impact, I don't think anyone's going to object to that, but, so that's the only question for tonight, I guess, is do people want to approve it with the permanent impact?
Well, so ultimately, let me ask another question. I'm just kind of flipping through because, given that it's not an expedited permit, the
Correct.
Conservation Commission doesn't need to sign anything, is that correct?
No.
So you're really looking for input on the project
Comments and/or recommendations.
and
And some commissions don't ever say they recommend approval, they say they don't object.
Sure.
That's what a lot of the commissions do. But it's, yes, we want input from you, and potentially if you're gonna write a letter to the
DES.
reviewer, to Stephanie, then we'd like to know now any other issues you have. We understand this 127-foot issue, and I didn't double question it because it's such a big site, and it shows a line going through the very corner right at the edge, but it certainly doesn't look like it's 127 square feet.
Yeah, that would be my only recommendation, is to just get clarity on that. I mean, I think overall, the idea of moving in creating the new septic system that's further back, I'm in favor of that. I think that's a good thing. But I do think it would, it's certainly when you, the planning board is your next stop, right? Certainly.
Well, we're trying to do them as concurrent.
Right,
entities.
to get, I'm sure they're gonna want clarity on that too, so
Yes.
that would, I have no other comment other than that, to just get that, established firmly when you go before them, so that they'll know. I don't have any other comments. Does anyone else have any comments?
I do have one more question, and I don't mean this to sound like adversarial in any capacity. When you met with Stephanie, did the concept of the DHR, Division of Historical Resources, and the archaeological Phase 1A stuff come up? I see in the Appendix B that it's basically flagged as not applicable.
The reason it's not applicable is we are not impacting wetlands.
Okay.
And there's some problems with the way the state application works, because it's not, the DHR is not triggered unless you have core jurisdiction, and you have no core jurisdiction.
Okay, the perfect explanation.
Well, no,
We had a
but
project got blown
a lot
up
of
on
people
the
do
Exeter
it
River,
anyway.
so.
When it's only triggered when, and that form is the Corps of Engineers Appendix B form.
Yep.
Because there's other things with tidal buffer zone impacts where it sounds like you have to do all these things and you don't.
Yeah.
So that's why I put NA.
That's perfectly fine. We had a poor experience with that where we got an opposite response from DES on a project that we were doing adjacent to the Exeter River. So your response sounds correct to me, but
I've talked
just
to
to
Collis
be aware.
Adams about it.
Yeah.
I've said you might want to change your form
Yeah.
to say, what they should on that last question is say, if you are having impacts on wetlands, have you done that? And
Agreed.
it doesn't say that, and it's confusing because it looks like you might need to do it, but you only need to do it. And I imagine they probably had to do it for when they did the dock, because that was impact to wetlands. But, so there's probably a study that was done, if you guys want to look at it. But it's not required.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So then if you do get some updates, yes, please do send them along to us so that we're.
I'll try to get you an update ASAP.
Okay.
And can I get your email to do that? Or
Yep.
can I send
Yes.
it to Diane, or what?
You could send it to Diane, but I'll give you my email if you want to copy me on that as well.
Fantastic. And I apologize for a little confusion there, but I didn't do that particular measurement.
And I was unaware till this just came up, because everything we've been doing with the architect, designer, has been behind the 100-foot line.
Yeah, I mean, certainly as has already been expressed, anything you can do to keep it behind the 100-foot line.
The goal was,
makes
there
it-
was no
makes it-
reason to bring it forward.
Right, makes it easier
Right.
for a variety of reasons.
And the way,
Makes it
if
a
you look,
highly
as you look at
desirable
the plan of the house, to bring forward part of the house actually, as it moves along the river closer to town, it moves, the whole land sort of bows back a little bit, so everything pulls back a little bit anyhow.
Okay, anything else?
I don't have anything else, Mark. Does anyone else?
So, yeah, well, I would just like to say, I also don't have any objection. And I think, as someone who was born in 1964, I know that I don't work as well as I used to. And I hope to continue to work, but I know that there is a finite life to all of these things. And so replacing the septic system, I think in the long
Especially
term.
given the proximity to the river and
Yeah, right,
everything
right.
that's
Yeah,
necessary.
exactly. I mean,
And-
I think that's all good.
And Ms. Hardy has explained that that the sense of the ordinance, as well as Attorney Richardson, the ordinance for even the 125 zone, is to make sure that nitrates, phosphorus don't roll over hard soil and frozen ground directly into the river. So anything that we can do to protect the river is what we're trying to do, including that
Infiltration.
diversion infiltration
Yeah.
panel.
Okay,
All right.
I think I left an application with you.
Yeah.
That's actually a shoreland. So that's, and is this the one I gave you?
Yes, I put some notes
That's
on
okay,
it.
you can keep it.
Okay.
These are
Alright.
cherries. No, this is a different.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
and good luck with the project,
Yeah,
Costa
good luck.
I hope you feel better soon. Yeah, take care.
They told us about the flu, but nobody said anything about this.
All the rest of it, yeah.
What?
Oh, you both got it?
And yeah, well, he's been sick since Thursday, and I got sick from Monday.
It's not a competition, you know.
It's interesting because we generally don't catch colds from each other,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's a wonky feeling more than anything
Well,
else.
it's been goofy, because it can't be 50 degrees one day, and then -2 for a couple of days, and then 30, all once playing havoc on a lot of mutating stuff out there, too.
Did you guys get one?
I didn't see one here tonight. That
You
was,
guys, cause
but
when I file
I'll
it.
pass this down
No,
to
I can
Sue
give
if
her,
you're.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pass that down to Sue.
I can give you another one if you need it. I just.
That's
Sure.
fine. It's got some notes on it, but I made them.
This should really be three-dimensional. If you took this and folded it in half, because the whole property is like this, and the house, if you go this way or this way, it's really been put on a
Here you go.
All right. So, no update on the treasurer's report. Ann is not here tonight, but I have not gotten any update as to when the financial software will be up and working. So, nothing to report on there. And so. Yeah, yes, I did. Yeah, thanks, Sue. So, Casey could not be here tonight. He did let us know. Casey Finch, our town council rep, was out of town tonight. And Sarah Finch, our planning board rep, also had a meeting late that was going to keep her out. The only thing I will say, just because I know it's ongoing, is that they are working on the storm water regulations update, and that continues to move along. I know that's both of those groups, both town council and the planning board, because there's going to be a fair number of changes in there that once it finally gets released, we'll want to take a look at, because they are trying to update that and get that more current to what it looks like in other communities around here. All right. So let's go to, I don't have a lot under the chairman's report. I do have a couple things. I did give a call over to the Nature Conservancy, and we got the Wright Pierce report for the Lubberman Creek Restoration Bay Road Culvert, which, Drew, I don't know, was it about 3 or 4 years ago that we provided some funding for this? So this has fully been funded, and the town will be undertaking that. And so, if you're not familiar with that, on Bay Road, where Lubberman Creek goes under Bay Road, there's been a classic flooding problem there, and this will be a much wider capacity culvert that will be installed that will not only allow those waters to pass and prevent the flooding, but it'll also allow for wildlife, marine creatures, fishery, all that kind of thing that uses that creek, we'll now have more accessibility to the creek on the other side. If you know what a perched culvert is, it was a perched culvert to some extent, so that it was difficult for species to get up through there. So that'll be good when that's done, and I'm sure the people who live out on Bay Road will like it when the flooding doesn't happen anymore. It wasn't that long ago. It was this fall, I think, that there was some pretty bad flooding out there. So.
Any word on when that culvert replacement will actually happen?
I think that it's in the town's hands at this point, so that would be Department of Public Works. As far I know, it's been funded. They got funding through a variety of sources, and the last one was, I believe I'm not sure if I can tell you the exact name of the funding, but it has to do with coastal restoration, or basically areas like this that are along the coast that are prone to flooding or issues like that. There's funding, and that's where the last bit of funding for this came, because it is a fairly expensive thing to do.
Is the town planning to construct this, or is this publicly bid project?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that would be in Public Works.
Okay.
And I don't know how. All I know is funded, and they're planning to do it, but I don't know what steps they're in. But I did want to provide an update, since we provided $10,000. Wasn't that what we provided, Drew, for this project?
That's right. Yeah.
And a lot of that was related to the preliminary studies, I think, that had to be done. And the Nature Conservancy also contributed some funding towards it. It abuts their property. Okay. So that's all I had on that. Next thing I really want to go to is sort of what we have under old and new business. We've got a date with Serve with Liberty. It's going to be May 10th. This will be a Friday where Liberty Mutual employees will volunteer, and we're going to be working on Shopmeyer Park this year. I reached out to Richie Shelton on the Shopmeyer Park committee, and he's very excited to have the group out there working, and they'll work to gather a project list, but be some cleanup work out there, landscaping, different kinds of things like that. So a little different than the invasive species projects we've done in the past, but I think it'll be fun and get some more exposure to the park with this group coming in there doing that. So I'm excited about that. I forwarded. Did everyone get the sign estimate that I got from Ellen Snyder for Heron Point? And did you guys actually open it up and see any questions or feedback on that?
I thought the price was very reasonable.
Yeah, I was so surprised by the price, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't say that.
Well, I think it'll be great
Well,
to.
it's comprehensive, but
I'm looking forward. I think when we'll have the gate, we'll have this new map. I guess the next thing we can look at is whether we want to blow that map up and print it out. Build a kiosk like we have in some of the other places. We could look at that, but this is kind of the first step. So I wanted to go ahead and get approval for this tonight. So.
Well, I did have a question.
Sure.
This may be getting too granular, but I was wondering if there was any plan to put anything, given the sensitivity of the neighborhood in the past, whether or not there was a plan to have, parking marked off on the map at all. So, along the road there, just to have on the map, there's no parking.
Oh, to indicate on the map where the parking is,
Just so
we'll
that
have
if
the map on
someone's relying on the
and
map
where it's not.
to figure out
It's a
the
good
lay
idea.
of the land,
that's an excellent idea, Melissa.
Yeah, me too.
I will contact Ellen, and I'm sure she can add that in there. I don't think, yeah, because especially if we're gonna have this on the website.
Yeah. It was just such a big deal.
Yes.
Well, it does show
It
good
was the whole
faith.
reason we're at this
Yep,
point, right?
yep,
So,
yep.
yeah.
Yes, excellent. So, I've got that note. Is there any other, let's see.
I had one quick question on old business. Is this the time to bring that up?
I just wanna make sure if we don't have any other, questions
Oh,
on
that-
this, that we go
gotcha.
ahead and approve it.
Sorry.
So I can, get back to Ellen so she can go ahead and do that. So she does have parking in there on her proposal, but I will make sure that she designates on the map where the parking area is. Anything else before we? Okay. Well, I will make a motion that we accept this proposal to produce a map, and one-page interpretive text, for Heron Point to be done by Ibis Wildlife Consulting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Expenditure of,
$350, sorry, thank you.
just get that in, like, actually said.
That's why you're the best, Sue.
I was just expecting you to do it, say, the expenditure of, not to exceed.
Okay, so now did you, we have the photo contest on there.
Did we do
That's,
the
I saw that on there.
total
This was a question that came to me when you were talking about the, it came to me, you mentioned Serve with Liberty and Shopmeyer Park. It triggered me to think about, it was an old business item that there could be a bonfire with the old stuff that had been cut
Yeah.
down, the old invasives and all that, the pruning. Is there any more information about that event or?
We just have to, that's a good point. Drew went out there and covered them so that they wouldn't, I was out there actually today, and, they looked, that was good work on that. 'Cause, yeah, there's snow and now we can just pull the tarp off and,
Poof, bonfire.
and yeah, bonfire. There's like 3 piles at least, I would say.
Ooh.
Only 2 of them are tarped, though.
Yeah, the third one's pretty small, but,
Is the third one such that you can just feed it into?
no,
It's further away,
It was
okay.
further away. It was a lot of multi-floor rosa too. It's not
Yeah.
the kind of thing
You don't wanna
stick your
pick that
hand
up and be,
into.
yeah,
No.
alright,
It was the-
gotcha.
So yeah, that's a good point. We should talk about when we could do that. And my thought would be, if we're all going to be there, I think we have to announce it to the public. Isn't that correct, Drew? If we were going to all be there,
Sure.
we need to like host it somehow.
Yeah, it needs to, if there's a quorum there, it's a meeting.
Yeah, so
It would
then we have
qualify,
to
'cause-
publicly announce that we're going to do it. And I don't know if you can put something on the website, if that is sufficient public notice that you were gonna.
I
Isn't
don't
it
know.
however you post a meeting?
Yes.
So,
That's basically.
that's web and this bulletin board, I should think.
Right,
Yeah.
so, I would recommend that we try and do it sooner as opposed to later, because I don't know how much longer the snow.
Say, Lordy knows what the snow situation
Yeah,
is gonna be.
what the snow situation is. I could not do it this weekend or next weekend though, so, but I don't have to be there. If someone else wants to take charge, I could do it the following, that's the first weekend in March, so like March 2nd and 3rd. I could do it that weekend if anyone wants to do it, if the weather conditions are still good.
I could do it the 2nd, not the 3rd.
All right, should we tentatively say if the weather looks good on the 2nd, which is a Saturday, we will. What time should we start?
Are these big piles that are likely to go for a while? Are they
Yes.
really yeah, it sounds it.
I was
I
gonna say
should think 10.
10 a.m.
Yes.
Okay. So I may follow up since I will be out of town the week before. I might follow up and just send an email to folks here who are here to say, is it a green light, and if so, we need to give it to them. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Which actually, there is one other thing I wanted to bring up about Wien Farm. So, the bridge was in a little bit of disrepair,
Oh.
and
I saw that.
a citizen let us know, and Wendy copied myself and Rick, and Rick must have sent someone out there because I went out there today and it's all repaired.
Oh.
There's a lot of new parts that were put on the bridge, on the railing, where the railing was broken, so it looks great. So thank you, Rick, if that's.
Yeah,
Thank you,
kudos.
DPW.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for doing that, because I was all expecting to come back and report to you all today we had to fix it, but no, it looks fine. Looks fine. Yeah, it was originally reported to me that it was in Tuttle Swamp. So I was trying to figure out where a bridge was in Tuttle Swamp. I actually went out there and was like, there's no bridge out here that I can find.
It's
But-
very, very old if it is.
Yeah, well, it did get me thinking that there's in the little turnout for Tuttle Swamp, which I'm thinking was probably originally set aside maybe for snowmobiles to access that area. Is that maybe the thought that went in? Because there is the remnants of a little trail junction from that parking pullout. If you guys know where I'm talking about, it's on Highway 152. You'll see the little sign that says Tuttle Swamp. If you pull in there, there's the remnants, like I said, of a trail that went sort of straight back. And if you go on that trail for a little bit, you will come to where the snowmobile trail passes through there.
Oh.
I don't know if there's any urgency in cutting that back to make that trail accessible to people, because it's the alders are just growing over it.
Yeah, it's
So
over.
I don't think a lot of people go out there except in the wintertime, because it's just very swampy out there.
Yeah.
You
It's
can go
wet
out-
and thick.
Yeah, you can go out there now because it's frozen. So if you actually want to go and see Tuttle Swamp, now's the time to go do
Now's
it.
the time.
Because it's you can walk on it. So, all right. So, is there any update on the photo contest that you want to share?
The goal I would have, or I think the most pressing thing right now, as odd as it sounds, is to pick the day in October that we would want to have our launch or open house presentation of the photos that are entered, so that the Stone Church can put that on their calendar and save the time for us, and save the space, since we wanted, our small study group wanted to have the photos stay up there for a month, we thought. But we wanted to know, the small study group can figure out when we're gonna sit there, or when we were gonna ask for your help to sit there to receive the photos that are gonna be displayed. But what I'd be looking for was, what does October calendar look like for us to have a afternoon or Sunday afternoon or evening event that would be like the gallery opening, I guess you'd call it. That's the phase we need to establish right now. For the rest, we have to launch the publicity, but that would probably be, I would think by now, probably second week of March is believable. Something like that. So we need to bump that out a little bit, just from due to various vacations and days that our group has had other things that real life came into play here a little bit. But if we could look at the calendars and see when does it look like we can book an afternoon into evening or an evening time at the Stone Church, that'd be really helpful if we could establish that.
So you're just looking for the group to weigh in on when a good time would be?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice since it's our event, if it would be something that we could attend and be at.
Right. And I'm assuming it would be a weeknight, because the weekends are obviously.
This is upstairs, so it could be on a Saturday or Sunday,
Oh,
say
good.
4 o'clock to 6, or,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I would think if we're doing it in October, we would wanna do it late enough in October so that when the Red Sox are in the World Series,
That's a point.
there wouldn't be an issue with attendance.
Yeah, and when people might be traveling to other parts of our beautiful state
Yes.
for foliage or whatnot, so.
Yes. And I think if we,
And family friendly could be a Saturday or Sunday, 4-ish till 6, or 2 to 4, or 2 to 5:30, or whatever we'd like to do.
Does the Stone Church have any preference?
Not at this point, but
Okay.
I have a meeting there tomorrow about something else, and Cheryl triggered to say, hey, if you could get that date, they'd like to.
Sure, yeah. Planning is good.
Planning is good, and they do have other events, and they're doing more with community-wide events and, baby showers and family reunion dinners and some UNH homecoming kind of things, and
thinking if we did it on, say, the 19th, that would take us right up to Thanksgiving. We could have it cleaned up, over with, and cleared out before Thanksgiving.
the other thing is we could have people come and put the stuff up and have our event, a week into it.
Yeah.
So,
So you're saying November then?
no, October
October
19th would be our
19th.
event,
October
To
19th.
stay in place for a month.
and stay for a month.
Oh, okay.
And we could then ask people to bring, we can figure out when we'd like them to bring it. They could bring it maybe Sunday the 13th and we hang it, or a couple of evenings during that week, but we should plan the social thing for Saturday the 19th. Is that
Yeah, I think
believable?
I think that's a good choice. That's after the holiday weekend is the week before that,
Columbus Day.
Columbus Day weekend,
Yeah.
so that's, I think, good to avoid that weekend. And then you start getting in, the following weekend starts getting into the Halloween time too, so I think that's good. The 19th is good.
Okay.
Seems like a good day.
Thank you. So that was my main goal for tonight, and then to let you know, or we could, just say that we'll get out some more details about the launch, but it would be in I would think the end of the second week of March. That gives us time to finalize everything. Is that plausible? Yeah. And then we can go to the town website and the Friday bulletin from town administrator, and other library is happy to do some publicity, as is the Stone Church, and we can brainstorm other places. We have the website, the Instagram, and then the thing we would be working with Melissa can continue to interface with Casey. I'm pointing to Casey because he usually sits there, about the work on the July event where people can go from park to park or property to property and learn a little bit more, and exactly what is that gonna look like and how are we gonna do that. But that's integral, I think, to making this all kind of feel like a community event with some tiers and phases to it. TIERS, stages and phases. People are gonna cry about these pictures, I guess.
I don't know, maybe they'll be that good.
They could be just that emotionally, just solicit that kind of overwhelming beauty, rapture of nature response, that's right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The major thing on the website, I think Melissa had some good wordsmithing suggestions she made. Did you guys all see that email that she had sent out? And what my hope is, we'll have the Heron Point information so that we can have good links to all our properties that have maps on the website as well, so that we can
Oh,
that's kind of what my goal is, that we could have that up for this springtime when people people are really gonna be
Antsy and itchy to
antsy
get out.
is to have that update so that at least easily a person can go and then see all of the, click on a property and say, oh, here's the rules, here's, anything I need to know, if there is a map, there's the map, if there is a trail, here's where the trails are. And, so, I think with getting this map, I believe they're also producing one for Shopmeyer Park that we could also put on there as well. Same thing, would have, suggestions around the rules and parking and things like that. So, if we can get that far this spring, I would feel like we've accomplished a lot with the website. And now with also the work you guys have done on the social media stuff, I know Casey and Melissa have been doing most of that.
That's
so
huge,
thanks, yeah.
I did think of one other thing, because it was not in my my prepared notes, but sitting here this evening, the breaking news was that Tim, who's in charge of the video of the municipal meetings, was thrilled to hear about the photo event, and then he said he could take photos, we can work with him, and he can take those and make them be a video program for Channel 13.
Oh, cool.
And yes, and then he said also he's trying to encourage, or he wants to encourage different municipal branches of our municipal government and groups to use Channel 13. So if we think of other things that we would like help with a video project, he would love to be involved.
Well, yeah.
That'd
So
be great.
that gets us.
Probably what we will need if we do end up doing an event in July or in the springtime sometime, we're probably gonna want either video or images
Yeah.
of people, out in the different parks.
Yeah,
Using-
and if, I don't know where he's sitting right now listening to this, but picture if we had the different properties and the different parks, and there was somebody with expertise who might be wearing purple shirts standing there, or his esteemed colleague. Maybe it could be interesting for Tim to do a video thing of a couple of minutes about some of the history of that piece of land or that park, and then do a montage of each of the property, put the properties together for a few minute video presentation. He cited a couple of things he's done for other towns, and this is the
Cool.
kind of stuff he loves to do, it
Yeah,
turns
no,
out.
I like that. That would be great. Okay. The only other thing I had is I know, Chris, you submitted your paperwork for another term.
I did.
That's right. I submitted mine. Did anyone else have? Was anyone else coming? I don't know if Marianne or Ann. I don't have that in front of me to know whose term was expiring when. But if it was, you should have gotten something in the
Got a
mail
letter.
out. Wendy's pretty good about that. She mails that and lets you know when you need to get it back. So as long as you do that,
So those will be reviewed at the next town council meeting?
that's the goal, because
That's
the
the
term
plan.
starts in March, I
Yeah.
believe. So they do like to get that done. All right. If there's no other items, we are ready to go into our non-public portion. Do we need to do a vote before we go into non-public, that we're voting, to go into non-public?
Well, we have to make a motion to go into non-public.
Okay.
Yes, please. Right. I'll make a motion to go into a non-public session to discuss confidential matters related to real estate pursuant to RSA 91-A:3,
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.